This is Varun Dutt from IIT Mandi. In this lecture on Large Applications Practicum, we continue our journey exploring class diagrams and sequence diagrams, including use case diagrams in UML, Unified Modeling Language, using Umbrello. So let's get started. A class diagram, particularly a class in a class diagram, looks like this in an Umbrello application, where we have the top part, which is the name of the class. Then we have the different data members, int, in this case, day is TM withdrawal as an int. And then we have the member functions, which are the functions which operate on the data members in the class, like get balance, deposit, transfer in, transfer out, and write checks. Typically, if we are creating a class in Umbrello or in class diagram, it basically translates to this particular code in C++ programming language, where you have the class name, you have the public variables, particularly the constructor and destructor, and then the member functions and also the data members. And this basically means in code what this means in the diagram. So class diagrams actually come with a number of associations. So first is the simple S11 association, which means one renter can be dwell in one apartment, and one apartment can have one tenant renting it. So when we move from this side to this side, we say one renter can dwell in one apartment, and when we move from this side to this side, one apartment can have one tenant rented. So similarly, we can have if this is the diagram and this is one-to-one association, then the code corresponding to that one-to-one association is the following, where we have a class called renter and a class called APT. And in the renter class, we have the renter constructor destructor. We have an object of the APT class, and then we have the set dwell, get dwell functions, particularly using the APT object of the APT, and then get APT and set APT is also available for setting the apartment and getting the owners of the apartment. In contrast, in the APT class, we have the APT constructor destructor, and we have an object of the renter class, which we can use to set tenant, get renter, and set renter. So the idea here is that each of the classes have an object of the other class. In the renter class, we have APT object, and in the APT class, we have the renter object. And this allows us to actually do the association between the two classes. Another type of association is one-to-n association, where we can have one tenant live at one apartment building, but one apartment building can house 0 or more tenants. In the code, this means that we have a tenant class, we have an apartment building class, and from the apartment building class, we have a single object into the tenant class with their setters and getter functions. In contrast, for the apartment building class, we have an array or a vector of tenant objects, which include a number of tenants, and then this particular vector object is used to create the add, remove houses, and get house list and set tenant, get tenant and set tenant functions. So the idea is that for one-to-many relationship, one class will have a vector object or an array object, whereas the other class will have a single object. In the most complex manner, an association can be end-to-end, which includes one contractor can work for 0 or more companies, and one company can employ 0 or more contractors. And here, if this was in C code, then there will be a contractor class and a company class, and both these will be having array objects of one of the other class in the first class. There is another relationship which is also referred to as generalization in class diagrams, and generalization is a relationship. So for example, account is a form, checking is a form of account, and saving is a form of account, and both is a relationship to the account. So this is the generalization relationship. This is a generalization, and this is specific instances is a specific instance of account. Savings is a specific instance of account. So in code, generally generalization is obtained through inheritance. We will have public bank account where we have current account and saving account inheriting from the major main class, parent class, which is bank account. In class diagram, there is also another association relationship, aggregation relationship possible, which is Hazer relationship, and this is part whole relationship. So car can consist of one steering wheel, 2.225 doors, and 4 tires. So basically, this diamond means that car can be made up of steering wheel, door, and tires, and the car class is an aggregation of these objects. Whereas there is a stronger Hazer relationship with a bank account, in this case the closed diamond, which is like an aggregation, but the difference is that in a composition, if the parent class ceases to exist, then the children class does not have any, the associating classes does not have any existence. So if bank account ceases to exist, balance and transaction histories will not exist. Whereas in the case of car, if car ceases to exist, steering wheel, door, and tires can still exist. So in code, typically this is represented as bank account class with its constructor, destructor, and then we have functions, particularly for transactions, and then we have the balance class with have functions for the bank account object, and similarly in the bank account class we have an object of the transaction. So this is achieved through typically similarly there can be a transaction history class, balance class, and typically composition can be achieved by bank account having transaction history and balance objects, and balance class, which is the child class, will have a bank account object. So there is plenty of information on UML and notation in the links particularly, and it is a standard, and now is the time for activity. So in this activity, we are going to basically look at how we can do diagramming, particularly of the different association between classes, between using Umbrello UML modeler. So we can create 1-1, 1-N, N-to-N relationships, and how to create this using class diagrams, and also use case diagram. And then we can also use to generate the getter and setter functions appropriately in UML Umbrello without writing a piece of code, and that allows us to do it. And we can also save the work in an XML file, which then can be imported and sent to other people who can open your diagram and take a look at it. So in this particular case, we can also do aggregation and composition through Umbrello. So I would request you to try it out, and we can take a little bit of moment to try this out in the Umbrello tool. So particularly if I go to the internet and I type Umbrello UML modeler, and you will come to this page, and if you hit this page, you can actually see you have different Umbrello utilities available for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, and I have installed for the Windows. So click Windows, and in the Windows 64-bit, generally which are these days machines are 64-bit, you can install this setup.txt by downloading it, and once you install it by doing next, you will get to a screen like this, which is the Umbrello modeler tool. You can also search for Umbrello like this to get to the Umbrello modeler tool. So once you reach the Umbrello modeler tool, you can see that there is a tree view, there is documentation, there is a welcome screen, and it tells you that there are different types of diagrams available which you can create. So if you want to create a use case diagram, you can click here and create a use case diagram, or you can actually use case view, you can right click new and you can choose a use case diagram, or you can also do it from there and choose a use case diagram or a class diagram. So if we had to create a use case diagram, we will choose the use case diagram and we will create a new use case diagram, which I have done. And here you can drag an actor and you can rename the actor as client. And then you can also have this bubble, which is the use case, and we can actually call it withdrawals. And you can see, and now you can also create an arrow with the client. Click here and click to the withdrawal to get a use case. So you can do this. And one more thing is that right click this withdrawal and you can go to the properties, and in the documentation you can actually write the scenario which refers to successful withdrawal of the use case, which we looked at the last lecture. In contrast, if we had to create a class diagram, then we will go into the logical view, add new, and we can choose the class diagram. And we have already chosen a class diagram. So you can actually see we can insert a class by clicking this class label and hitting here, and say the class in this case is ABC, is say school. And within the school class, we can have right click it and go into the properties, and you can actually see all the properties related to attributes, operations, template, association, display, list, and even font size. So if you want to explore this further, we have already created some class diagrams. So I'm going to show you this one. And so if we go into week 7, just a second, week 8, and if we go into the activity of week 8, so we can see that there are no files as of now, but you can create more files, and you can actually save these diagrams. Let me just go into my desktop and check. Yeah, so these are zip files. So what I will do, I will unzip these files. They are being provided to you so as to explore the different activities. And let us explore this one, and let us explore, let's extract all of these one by one. This is the activity which is also given to you, and you can actually extract this, which is to create different types of try out different types of aggregation and these things. And you can see this last one is left. I will also extract this one. Yeah. So now if I go into one by one, we can see that there is an XML file, and we can open it from Umbrello. So my files are on desktop in week 8, and in week 8 I will go here and one by one, and if I open renter.api, so here is a class diagram which is already created, the one I showed you. And if I go into, there are two classes, they are connected by a link, this link, and if I open this, right click in properties, you can see that I have named the class apt. In the attributes, there are no attributes as of now. In the operations, I have created two operations, get renter and set renter, and I can actually go and check the properties of this. So I have named it get renter, it is the type renter, and okay, and then set renter, you can see set renter, and here I have created an object of the renter type R1, and I have set it as new parameter, and you can actually see how do you do that. So you have created renter and the name is this, and it's an in type object, input type object. So you can see this is the getter, renter, and setter renter functions of the apartment. And similarly, you can do it for the renter class, where you will set for the apartment. So here you can come here, and there are no attributes, but in the operations we have get apartment and set apartment. So get apartment is simple, and set apartment in contrast will have the object of the apartment class in the renter class, and that is it. And you can also have this association unit. So if you click this arrow, right click and go into the properties, you can actually see that we have this the association, and here we have written association in the drop down, and in the role we have defined the role as dwell, and multiplicity is 1, and tenant and multiplicity is 1, and both are public, both are changeable, and that is it. So now suppose I had to create code for this. So I will go into the code and I will actually go into code generation wizard, and suppose I want to create C++ code, and let's say I want to write all the generated files to the folder, and let's see, the folder is on my desktop, Feek8, and let's do it in this folder into 1-1 relationship, and select the folder and include the header files from this particular thing, that is fine, and ask. So we will now git OK. We will select both the classes and hit next, and you can actually generate. And when you generate, it says that there is already some files available. You can override these files, and when you override these files, you will actually get a green, which is code generated, and you can do finish. And when you do finish, you can actually go into this one, and then we will have the different codes already generated, and we can open them. So you can right click, and I have an editor here in my file where I can actually open the Ford, and you can see that in my notepad, the .h file, the renter.cpp file with all the getter setter including the class has been created. And similarly for the apt-cpp file, we have the apt getter setter created including the class. So you can see that all the details have been created in the two .h files have the class definitions, and the CPP files have the getter setter definitions, and this is about it. So now the interesting thing is that we have similarly created for other types of umbrella files for other relationship, one-to-n relationship, aggregation relationship, end-to-end relationship, and also we have an activity line folder where you can see the activity and you can check it out. So please try this out at your own pace, and we will connect in the next lecture. Thank you.